they just keep the ball. They're dead patient. They don't force anything. With us, it's like, right, we'll get the ball here now and we'll play like a diag and let's pick it up. There's no style.
Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is Off the Bat, brought to you by Green King Sportwear. Football is more than a game. Joining me are some absolute titans of the Manchester United fan base. We've got Mr. Joe McGrath.
Hello. How are you? All right?
Yeah. You good?
Yeah, very well
yes,
today.
Good to
Why are you smiling already? Why is he smiling already?
You're looking good. We've got similar tops on today.
We've all got a little bit of a similar colour scheme on the go, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
We all got the memo. We all understood the assignment. Yeah,
yeah.
It's quite slate heavy in this studio.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, that is very much the theme. We've also got the RH, Mr. Ryan Hopper.
Yeah, the RH.
Up the RH.
Thanks for having me, as
we'll
always.
We'll be tapping into your expertise on this particular episode as well. Yeah, this is your time
to
shine.
I look forward to it, mate.
Yeah,
shine.
Yep. And last but by no means least, Mr. Joe Smith. How are you doing, brother?
Hello, Jay.
You good?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I'm very well, thank you. I'm ready to talk about the absolute, titanic success that is Manchester United. Can't wait.
Where there's just so much success going on at the minute, so much happiness, so much joy, so many goals. I just don't know where to begin. We are going to be talking about goals because we haven't been scoring enough of them. We've got 5 in the Premier League this season. Just to give you a bit of context. That's not a word. Context. That's 1 less than Ipswich. Isn't great, is it? Danny Welbeck's got 4. I don't know he's ace, but come on. Like, what is going on? 3 of those 5 goals came against Southampton.
Yeah.
Hey?
It's bad.
Flipping heck.
It's really bad,
It's really bad.
It's not that good. And do you know who I blame?
Ten Hag?
I blame the one that was coaching Marcus Rashford a few weeks ago. I think that's his fault.
Don't be tight.
Stop, mate.
I'm not. You're the last. You're the last one to blame him. Listen, he knows I'm not being serious. I know I will never blame him. To be fair, Marcus has been amongst the goals, but we haven't been scoring enough. So we're going to look at what is going on, what are the reasons behind it, and what can we do or what can we suggest to fix it. Obviously, it's for people above our pay grade to actually come up with the solutions, but we'll give it a go. Get involved in the chat in the comments and let us know your thoughts as well.
Can I give you some of the background on this?
Yeah, please do. Elucidate us.
So looking just at open play to start with, United have got an XG, which means we've created 9.46 goals worth of chances from open play. We've scored 3 goals from open play. So already we should have scored 6 more than we have. It's a little bit more than that. Obviously, you can't score half a goal, so let's call it 6. In terms of set pieces, we're also scoring fewer than we've created in terms of chances. The same with free kicks. The only area where we're actually doing a little bit better than we should be is from corners, which is, obviously corners are a good thing to be good at, but the fact that we can't score from open play, and also the people scoring from corners are midfielders and defenders. It's not necessarily our strikers putting the ball in the back of the net. United have got a real problem with our goal scorers scoring goals. It's not happening at the minute. In terms of who is underperforming in this regard, Xerxes is underperforming his XG by 1.5 goals, so he should have got 1 and a bit more than he has. Garnacho a similar number. Bruno Fernandes even more than that, almost 2 goals under where he should be. Martinez, who in my head I can't think of him as having loads of big chances, but I think he's had a handful of sort of smaller chances, none of which have gone in. The only people really who are actually doing slightly better than their XG, or kind of matching it, is Marcus Rashford and Ahmad. So the front line in general is underperforming or just doing as much as they should be. Like you said, obviously Rashford's one of the few that is actually putting the ball away as much as he should have. But United have got big problems when it comes to scoring goals. To already have missed more chances and sort of XG than we've scored is horrendous. You want it to be matching or slightly better. We've got less than half of the goals we should have, basically, which is just horrendous. Doesn't make any sense. Like, let's have a chat with you, Ryan, because obviously you've been a professional footballer, you've played league football, you coach, you've coached a handful of United players, you coach many professional footballers across different levels and different leagues. Fundamentally, is Joshua Xerxes, Garnacho, Bruno Fernandes, someone you have sort of coached, are these people below average when it comes to hitting the ball into the back of the net, do you think? Or is there other things at play here?
No, I think for me, we was having a conversation before off camera about obviously the system and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm going to highlight Xerxes, for example. For me, like, he drops very deep, so his chances obviously are him running into the box of late to try and get chances. Obviously, if we're playing him as a 9 and he's gravitating deep Bruno's in that position as a 10. So obviously you've got 2 players there taking up them positions.
Yeah.
So when the ball does transition into your wingers and they're trying to get crosses into the box, who's in the box? Obviously Highland, also for me, you know, we haven't got an out-and-out goal scorer in my opinion as a 9. Like Highland's a great target man. Xerxes the same, back to goal, does a great job, drops in as a 10. But, you know, all these top teams, they've got a number 9 where when the ball comes into them areas, they're relied upon just to score goals. They might not be involved in open play that much, whereas I feel like us, our strikers are dropping into the 10 positions, but when it really counts in them areas where to hurt teams, we don't seem to be there. So a lot of our chances are coming from maybe shots outside the box, or like you've highlighted Marcus and Ahmad there, like, you know, they get it, they cut inside, they hit shots. We've seen over the past 3 games, all our chances are coming out wide, 1v1, cutting inside, shooting, whereas we're not carving open opportunities. When do we ever score tap-ins or anything like that? We don't. We're scoring off set pieces and stuff like that. So for me, Joe, that's a massive worry for us.
Yeah. It's weird as well, isn't it? Because we've got a list of, in terms of big chances missed. So obviously, it speaks for itself. United are sort of joint second on that list, but really they're 4th because there's 3 teams that have either missed either the same or one more than United. United have missed 17 chances. Liverpool missed 17 as well. Spurs 18, Arsenal 18, which on the face of it is good because, you know, we're up there in terms of creating chances with some of the bigger boys. But the thing to remember here is we've missed 17 chances and we've scored 5. Liverpool have scored 13. Spurs have scored 14. Arsenal have scored 15. And they've missed 17 and 18 chances on top of that. You know, they've already got, in some cases, a 10-goal lead on us, and they're still creating those extra 18 chances for them to miss. Why do you think, Joe, that these players or these tactics or whatever it is missing so many chances firstly before we get to, you know, maybe not creating as many as we should? What's going on?
You sit there as United fans so frustrated over the last 3 Premier League games, just scratching your head and finding that there's not too much, for me, aggression on the side of these players that I see going forward. It feels like we're always sort of on the back foot, especially we look at the Liverpool game. I think we had a good spell of football in the first 30 minutes where I was thinking, hold on, something's in this. But as soon as they score that first goal at Old Trafford, it kind of silences us a little bit as fans, and then we're always looking so much like the underdog that we never seem like we're going to be able to score. Tottenham was a different kettle of fish because they scored so early on, then our heads dropped again. But it's the finest of margins with these big games. We were sat here on the watch along, and it was just, you know, when the goal goes in, Tottenham, our heads drop, but yet there was chances for United to sort of equalise. There was the Garnacho sort of on the volley, hits the bar, goes out. You think it's the finest of margins of, if that goes in, it's 1-1. We've still got 11 men on the pitch. Who knows what can happen there? But things have fallen just not our way. I mean, me, Jay and Scotty sat here for the Aston Villa game, and I just was never confident that we were going to score. I was always a little bit on edge that Villa were going to get the goal, shut up shop and beat Man United. And it never felt like, for United fans, that we had encouragement to go forward and for our players to score. So I don't know what that is. Is it a confidence thing? Is it an aggression thing? Is it, you know, because you brought in someone like Ruud van Nistelrooy, and I think that would all get us excited, a former legend coming to the club. And he might be doing some great work. I mean, like you said, we are making chances, but the next level for him is to turn those chances into goals. And that's above my pay grade, that. I don't know, because you are right, they're setting them up, it's just not getting them in.
And it's hard as well, isn't it, Jay? Because, like, we talk about, like, Van Nistelrooy coming in, and obviously you can learn from coaches. I'm not, you know, Ryan, of course, you'd say the same thing. Players can improve by learning different techniques, learning sort of different attitudes and gaining confidence from the coaches around him. But Van Nistelrooy can't turn Xerxes into Ruud van Nistelrooy. No. He's never going to be one of, you know, Van Nistelrooy is the best finisher I've ever seen in my life. Van Nistelrooy can't teach Xerxes to be that. So what can we expect from these players? Is it just a confidence thing, do you think? Or, you know, is it a lack of coaching, a lack of direction? What's going on here?
I think there's a multitude of reasons. I think, for starters, I don't think Xerxes is naturally that great a goal scorer. I don't think there's anything in his records to suggest he is. And I think I agree with Hopper about what Hopper said about him dropping deep all the time and operating in the same space as Bruno. I mean, you were talking about this the other day. I actually think there's an argument to be made that you could rest Bruno, play Xerxes with Højlund in front of him. I think that could be an option you could look at least for one game. I also think the manager sometimes kills a little bit of momentum whether that's within a game or someone who's on form. We saw it in Porto. I was over in Porto when Marcus, I know you can argue about his defensive lapses or whatever, but he was tearing Porto apart, and he'd take him off at half-time.
Yeah,
what does that do for a player's confidence? What does that do for their sort of momentum that they've got? You go back to the Crystal Palace game. For 60 minutes, we were all over him. And our three best players, I think, were Xerxes, Ericsson and Diallo. And he took all three of them off within the space of 10 minutes, which I get you might argue, okay, well, Ericsson was looking a bit leggy or whatever, but those were the players that were causing the problems, and he took them all off. Marcus Rashford, I know it's only Barnsley, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but he had a great game. He's firing on all cylinders. He looks like the Marcus of old. He's done a bit of coaching with RH. It looks all good stuff. The Palace game's coming up. He's dropped. Why?
Yeah.
If the player's doing well and he's got momentum and he's scoring goals, keep him in the team.
What did you make of that? Because
I was gobsmacked because obviously I'd done the work with Marcus. He come back, obviously the Barnsley game. No, come back at the Southampton game, scored. Barnsley game got 2. You know, he was 3-2. You roll on to the next game full of confidence, goals back. You know, his overall game coming back, that 1v1 stuff, you know, expressing himself, and then he's out of the team, which was very confusing. The Porto one was very confusing as well. For the first 45 minutes, I get what you're saying about the defensive stuff.
Well, honestly, I'm sort of echoing what was said, because I didn't think that at the time.
I was surprised.
It didn't really bother me. I was more concerned. The player that we'd all been cheering on, who'd been absolutely destroying Porto,
He's having a great game.
Didn't come out for the second half.
Their manager was losing the mind with the fullback. Was losing his mind, and even as a team, like as the lads are going in the dressing room at half time, all they'll be talking about is we need to stop Rashford. We need to stop Rashford. Imagine on a psychological thing, as you're walking back on the pitch, you don't see Rashford there. They're like, oh my God, like happy days, lads.
You'd be
you know what I mean? Like, so in the
gone.
psychological thing, you know, just going back to the point that you made about the Nistelrooy thing. I think, like I said, Xerxes dropping deep and Højlund dropping deep. They're not really natural finishers. Nistelrooy had the instincts to be in certain positions, so maybe he can help them guys and go in, listen, don't drop deep. Maybe pick these positions up, be patient with it, because your job is not to get involved in what Bruno's doing in there, Xerxes. Your job is to score goals. That's why we brought you in. So these are the positions throughout my career I got myself in, and I was known to be one of the best goal scorers of all time. Stay in them positions, just trust the process and stay in them positions. And then if they're not doing that, they're going against what a coaching staff's saying, they shouldn't play. End of story. Go and play someone that will. Go and will do that, because they're, as a centre forward, as a number 9, if you're playing up front for Man United or any team, is to score goals and be in the right positions.
Looking back a little bit, the United under Ten Hag, in his first season we scored 58 league goals, which was the joint 7th most with alongside Brentford. United finished 3rd that season, partly because we only conceded 43, which isn't that few, but it's less than we conceded last season.
Sorry, I didn't mean to insult you, but we had heavy defeats as well.
Yeah, we did.
Skews it a bit like...
I think just for context, I think De Gea got the most clean sheets of any keeper that season. And but we lost 7-0 to Liverpool. We conceded 6 against City in like the 4th game or whatever it was. So, no, not the 4th game, but you know, early on. So it was slightly misleading. United had a good defence for most of that season. Yeah. We finished 3rd. The second season last year, surprising, we mentioned this the other day, but just to, obviously in a bigger context for this video, United only only scored 1 fewer goal last year than we did in Ten Hag's first season. However, that put us down into joint 10th place with Palace. And obviously the big difference was we conceded 58 goals to the 43 of the previous season, which meant that the goal difference was -1 and United finished 8th. Now, that is an issue because obviously that doesn't have the full context of everyone else, but for United to be finishing 10th and 7th in terms of goals scored under Ten Hag, does that worry you, Joe? That this might just be either a tactical issue where, you know, these tactics just don't create a lot of goals, or the players aren't buying into the tactics, or a combination of both?
I always sort of think under Ten Hag we sort of, and I have said this previously on a watch long, you sort of fix one problem on the sinking ship and then another hole pops open. It looks like we might be settling down on, you know, chances against Man United, and it looks like Onana and defence are becoming a little bit more structured at the back, and maybe we are slowly fixing what was an awful season last year for Man United. I know it was Onana's first year. We embedded him into the Premier League, working on a completely different system for the first time in like 10 years since De Gea has been at the club, and that led to unfortunately a minus goal difference at the end of the season season. We finished 8th overall, so it was a nightmare for United. And it feels like we're working, and we have been working on making sure the defence is more structured and we don't concede as many goals. Obviously, it's not really worked at home with those 3-0 defeats, but we're slowly getting somewhere. It feels like we're slowly getting somewhere.
We're conceding fewer shots, we're conceding fewer chances.
Yeah.
In general, that is true. I know we've had the 2 games that have accounted for 6 of the 8 goals we've conceded, but outside of that, we've conceded 2 goals in 8 games. 2 goals in 6 games in the league. We're pleased to announce that once again, Off the Bar is brought to you by Green King Sport, where football is more than just a game. And for every United match this season, if you're not going to the game, the next best thing is getting your mates together and going down to your local Green King Sport, where you can check out all of the action.
If you use the Green King Sport app, you'll be able to find your nearest Green King Sport pub, and you'll even get 10% off your drinks during the game. And if you've not signed up before, you'll even get a free pint on the house. We've linked the app in the description, so go and check it out. And a big thank you to Green King Sport for sponsoring this podcast.
We've conceded very few goals in most of United's games this season. Again, it's similar to that first year where you've got these big losses that are accounting for most of the goals, but the number of shots we conceded is way lower than it was last season. The number of chances we conceded is far lower than it was as well, so that is right.
So we go over to this side of the boat, we've fixed up this is looking great, then pop a little thing behind us, we can't score goals. And it's like, whenever we get the balance right, I think that's when a Ten Hag team can really thrive. In the first year, it was possible. You know, we didn't score too many goals in the first year. We like you said, we scored 1 more than last season, but we were just able to get results and not concede as many. That was when the balance was right for Ten Hag. It's not there at the minute, and I generally am a little bit worried because we're putting pressure on these young lads, and these, you know, there's so much pressure on Ahmad coming through, Garnacho's still young. We see him as like a proper senior player, don't we? Because he's been in the club for so long. But what's the lad, 21, 22, still so young. And then we buy in this Xerxes, we put a big price tag on his head, and already we can feel that the fans are slowly turning on the fact that we kind of didn't need this person in our squad. And it's not Xerxes' fault, because of course you'd move to Man United, of course you'd take the contract, but what it is his fault is we're not getting the best out of him. And I'm worried that might be we need to fix that fast, because big games are coming up.
Yeah.
How worried are you, Hopper, from a sort of psychology point of view? Because I think about it, you know when Spurs went 1-0 up after 2 minutes, and you think, Jesus Christ, and we don't score goals.
Yeah, we don't.
Do you know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a long afternoon.
If we were going to win this, it's probably going to be a 1-0 anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, now,
see what I mean?
What chance have we got?
And then I know, like, obviously we still could have got back into that game, and I'm sort of exaggerating a little bit, but how much do you think that comes into it? Because you remember back in the day, like, with United, when in our glory years, where you had that, like, Van der Sar with his 17 clean sheets, whatever it was was like, if United scored, the game was over. If it was 1-0 to United, forget it.
Sharp.
Yeah, and now it's like, you got 1 goal behind or 2 goals behind, you think, well, this game's done. We ain't going to score 2 goals against Liverpool. We ain't going to score 3 goals against the Scousers or 2 or 3 against Spurs. Like, how much do you think that's coming into it psychologically? Or do you think that's...
I think going back to that game, I think that goal, you know, you could pinpoint loads of different moments how that goal was a disaster.
Yeah.
And I think it's the worst possible start. But, you know, when you're on the pitch, you always owe it to yourself, owe it to your teammates, your manager, and most importantly, the fans, to have a good goal.
Yeah.
And it's like, if that does happen into a game, you've got to have that mentality, like you said, and desire. And also, if they've got a style of play, they've got to stick to it. In my opinion, I don't feel like we have got a real identity as a football club. In my opinion, I feel like 11 players go out on a pitch. You know, there's a lot of rotation, as we like to say, rotation of players. There's no real players that start, you know, regular. Well, there's a few, but not a lot. A lot of rotations in attacking third, because he's trying to get that solution to the problem with the goals by chopping and changing things. Probably just need to have our best team and stick with it, and then go with it. For me, you know, we don't have a number 9. Like, we don't have an out and out goal. If you look, you know, out at the teams in the Premier League, even Tottenham, obviously it's very obvious to mention City with Haaland. Even Tottenham, they brought in Solanke. Solanke gives them that not just a goal scoring aspect, but it gives them so much in terms of holding the ball up, running in behind. You know, other clubs have got that type of player. We haven't got that type of player. Højlund's not really very clinical. He's not been fit. We've not really seen a lot of him. So maybe I might be wrong in the next few weeks, months, or whatever. Xerxes, he's like a 10, but when he first come in, he said he likes to drop deep as like a 9.5. like in between the 9 and the 10. But then that takes away what Bruno's doing in the hole. And then, so we need to get a structure and a routine, and players need to know their roles and responsibilities. At the moment, I don't think no one does.
No.
And we've seen that on the pitch.
That
That's
is
my
interesting
opinion.
with the goal scoring thing there, because you'd sit down with United squad now and you could do it like Ryan just did there with every other Premier League team. You could probably take a good bet on who their top goal scorer is going to be come the end of the season. Look at Man United now. Who would you put your money on? Rashford being top?
It's
Hoyland? You'd have to bet
Hoyland,
right now
Rashford
who's going to score the most
Hoyland,
goals.
Rashford or Bruno, but I couldn't tell you who.
And it kind of you got a leader there in the person who will go out there and get you the goals. And what other teams do is, you know, you've got your Haaland who will score the most goals, but they are helped and their numbers are bumped up by others who score.
You're right, Joe. Also, if you look, I'm just thinking of Spurs for an example. Son didn't even start against us; he wasn't available. Solanke, who had a bit of a stinker against Arsenal, but obviously has scored some goals and has played well. Brennan Johnson, who was getting booed by his own fans not long ago, but has weighed in with goals.
He's got 6 goals in 6 games now, Brennan Johnson.
My point is, there's a few there that you think actually they could get you a goal. This game with the Scousers, like Darwin Núñez has almost become a laughing stock. He still scores goals for them. Even Cody Gakpo started sort of fixing up. His goal scoring record this season has massively improved. And Salah is unfortunately one of the best attackers on the planet. They've got options. City, yes, obviously Haaland's show, but there's others as well that weigh in. And it's just like
they're coming from different directions.
Yeah, Arsenal feel like they do mix it up a bit more with the goals.
Yeah.
But United is
the one in it where you go. It's probably Saka. But on any given season, Havertz could get 15, Odegaard could get 15.
And I feel like with United, it's like the other way around.
But they're not relying on one individual to produce all the
that's
goals.
my point,
Like yourself and Joel said there, you've got like different players weighing in different positions. But then that goes back to my point about a 9. As if the nine's an important position because know what his movement, or sometimes the 9 doesn't have to even touch the ball to be effective. Sometimes his movement might drop in, so then like Solanke drops in, Brendan Johnson runs beyond him, he gets little flick-ons, Maddison comes off him into a 10, picks up second balls. Everything's pivotal to that sort of position, whereas with us it's like we're playing Xerxes as a 9, if we are playing him as a 9 because Ireland's not been fit, and he's a 9, he drops all the way in here, Bruno's in here, so then where's the options here in the final third? You then have to go out wide, and then obviously if the Ahmads and the Rashfords are going to go 1v1 and they cut inside, looking, what's the only option they've got there? To shoot, or if you're going to go on the outside to get crosses in, who's in the box?
What does happen, right, when you get the ball in your own half, and it's not a counter-attack, but you've got sort of, you're building up from the back, who's in charge of like how United go forward and attack then? Do you just see the runners? Do you give the ball to someone like Bruno and let's see what he does? What happens when we go forward? Because sometimes when we go forward, I just feel like we lack ideas. It's like we're not got that creative sort of...
Presumably
they work us out easy. The defenders work us out so easy.
Predictable.
The manager's giving
him
a
style, innit? Goes back to a style. So for example, say if Maguire gets the ball or De Ligt gets the ball, obviously you're looking for your holding midfielders to get on the ball. So if a Casemiro and Agate drop in, and if they might use it as a little bit of a bounce pass, as they bounce back in, Bruno might operate in the 10, which create gaps, so then you slide it into the 10 and then you progress up the pitch. But with us at the moment, it's everything's adamant going out wide. The centre halves to get the ball, they'll ping it out wide. But obviously, from my experience, you want Rashford getting the ball on 1v1, but half the time he gets it, and the only option that he's got is to come inside with these little bounce passes into the midfield. So you need to get him in the right areas where he can hurt the teams. Same with Ahmad, not just Marcus, but Ahmad as well. The final third where they can express themselves, but it has to be progressive, and it's got to be free flowing. You look at all these great teams; they just keep the ball. They're dead patient. They don't force anything. With us, it's like, right, we'll get the ball here now, and we'll play like a diag, and let's pick it up. There's no style.
Just in terms of the making chances, another stat just to look at is shots per 90. I think people always, you look at Cristiano Ronaldo and is the greatest. Numbers-wise, the greatest goal scorer of all time. I think he scored more goals than any other professional footballer in history. So, he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. He isn't the most clinical striker of all time. He doesn't have the best conversion rate of all time. The thing that he is better at than anyone that's ever existed, pretty much, is having a high number of shots every single time he plays. And eventually, the ball goes in. If you have 6 shots a week, you're probably going to score a goal a week. Because footballers are good enough that if you have good shots from good areas, repeat it, the ball will end up in the back of the net. Then you add the fact that he's fast as anything, he's tricky, skillful, can head the ball, is both two-footed, then you've got 900 goal career. But just fundamentally, if you're having 1 or 2 shots a game, you're probably going to score a goal every 3 or 4 games. Like, it's hard to overcome just a lack of output. And looking at the numbers for United's shots per 90, and I'm only going to include people who've played a minimum of 90 minutes because some of the numbers are slightly skewed otherwise. Like Anthony's averaging 7.5 shots per 90, but he's only played 24 league minutes, so it's not really worth sort of looking at. Garnacho is top of the list at United. In 400 minutes, he's having 3 shots per 90, which is pretty good. But when you consider that, think back to that Porto game. How many of those shots were from 20 yards out, 22 yards out?
Yeah, it got a bit frustrating, didn't it?
Yeah, it takes you about 10 or 12 of them for one of them to go in.
Yeah.
Once you get in the box, it dramatically increases. Fernandes is next on the list with 2.8 shots per game. Then you go to Xerxes with 2.1, Ahmad 1.6, Rashford 1.09. Højlund is played 93 minutes. I know a lot of them have been off the bench, but he's averaging 0 shots per game at the minute. So, like, you look at that, it's 1 shot, it's 1.5, it's 2. The 2 highest are Bruno, who's not a striker, and he's hitting them from quite far out usually, and Garnacho, who, as we said, a lot of his shots come from 20 yards out plus. No wonder we're not scoring. We're not taking enough shots generally, and the ones that we do have are from sort of outside the box and low areas. We need to find a way to get the ball in the box and shoot from there.
I believe Ronaldo is the last player for United to score a hat-trick as well. And I know we're not expecting hat-tricks every other week, but since Ten Hag's been in charge, no one out there has gone and done a dominant striking performance and can pick up that ball at the end of the match and take it with them because they've scored 3 in a game. So
half
it's like
the time they're on 2 and he takes them off.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, so it's it backs up the point there. If you go for it, you can get it. But it does feel like we struggle a lot.
Yeah,
it's about getting in the right areas. I'll say that. I'll say that so much because, like I said, if you're not in the right areas, then that's why you have to shoot from 25 yards out and then pick up like little snapshots and stuff. Like, we shouldn't be relying on that. We should be getting out wide, either coming inside, shots outside, balls in the box, and be reliant on the nines to be in the right positions to convert. You know.
How much, Jay, do you think is personnel? And Xerxes isn't a great finisher. You know, Højlund's still a young kid. Rashford can be up and down at times. Bruno is probably the most reliable of the lot in terms of consistency, but he's struggling this season. You know, we can go through all of them and look at the weaknesses. How much of it is personnel, do you think, and how much of it is the sort of the way that Ten Hag is managing them, and the whether that be the tactics, whether that be the confidence that is being instilled or being allowed to flourish under Ten Hag? Where do you put I don't want to say blame, but kind of the reasoning for what we're seeing?
I think it's slightly more on the personnel, but there are tactics involved because, like I said, with the rotation thing and the killing the momentum, that's on the manager.
Definitely.
That when he does that annoys me and that frustrates me a little bit. And I think that's where Ten Hag has to be better, and he has to realise, look, this isn't working. I need to stick with these players if they're playing well, or they're troubling the opposition, or they're on a good bit of form. But I think in terms of the actual players themselves, the issue you've got, and I said this with a lot of our players, and it seemed like on their day, almost any of our players are one of the best in the world in their position on their day. You have seen Marcus Rashford smash City, Liverpool, Chelsea, PSG. Arsenal, PSG. I've seen Anthony at Barcelona, and I'm not his biggest fan. We've seen Diallo on his day; he looks unreal. The trouble is that they're not consistently goal scorers, not consistently players that will week in, week out destroy teams, whatever. And that is my biggest fear because I'm looking at it and I'm looking at these players and I'm going, you know, like you might say Spurs were going through a slump. You'd think sooner or later Heung-min Son's going to get hold of this game and get hold of it, go on a run, and he's going to get you like 5 goals in 8 games or whatever and help get you out of it. If Liverpool going in a slump, you think something like Mo Salah's going to score 10 in 10 or something and he's going to be do the business for you. Chelsea, Palmer probably would be that guy where you go, actually, Cole Palmer will come up trumps for us. City, obviously, Haaland's a goal machine. I look at United and I think feasibly, you mentioned earlier then the debate about who's going to finish our top scorer. Is it going to be Bruno? Is it going to be Marcus? Is it going to be, I think you mentioned Højlund as the other one. There is a reality where all 3 of those players could end up with 11 goals or whatever in all comps. I'm not trying to hate on him because I love all those players, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility those 3 players get 33 goals in all competitions between them. No. Like, there's no guarantee. You can't say to me, oh, I know for a fact Bruno Fernandes is going to hit 20 goals this season. I know he's done it in the past, but it doesn't mean he will this season. So that's the issue I think Erik ten Hag has got. He hasn't got someone he can count on reliably to get him loads of goals. So he has to do the best with what he's got. And I don't think he is. I think he's like I said earlier, going back to my earlier point, changing it when it doesn't need changing, killing that momentum. Also, little things like, I don't know any United fan, and you've worked closely with him, so you'll know better than me, who actually think Marcus is a 9, he's someone down the middle. And yet he still persists with that at times when I think he shouldn't. Not Marcus' fault, he's getting told to play there, and he'll play wherever he's told to. But you saw it, I think it was the Palace game where he took off Xerxes, then puts Marcus down the middle, and I think that's almost counterproductive on 2 fronts. And I think little things like that, the manager's got to take responsibility there. So, yeah, I do feel like we are a little bit threadbare in terms of goal scorers, but also the manager isn't helping himself with his team selections and his tactics as well.
What do you think, Hopper? Do you obviously you've seen some of these players up close, Rashford and Bruno in particular. Do you look at them and think they should be encouraged and they can be kind of tutored into being reliable, consistent goal scorers and chance creators, or do you think, and obviously I'm not asking you to directly insult someone you've worked with, but do you think United need more top finishers in the team for us to really succeed?
Yeah, I think you just can't rely on like certain individuals as well. Like, you know, if like you mentioned all the names there about obviously relying on certain people to come up trunks like Ahmad and Garnacho and Rashford. They're all wingers. Yeah. Like we've not mentioned one who's a number 9 for our top goal scorer, and for me that's where the problem lies. You need an out and out goal scorer in your team. We've had it over the years, and we've seen it time and time again where we've not relied on him because you always get goals from other places. But you know, for example, Bruno, you know, when he's hitting 20 goals a season, Marcus when he's hitting 20 goals a season, if they then don't do that, do they then take all the pressure and all the abuse and all sorts of stuff because they've not done that? They've not done that. So that's, but where's all the other players coming into play? Again, Marcus is playing out wide, Bruno's playing as a 10. Yeah, you are expected to chip in goals. I'm not saying that they're not, but where's our number 9? Why is our number 9 not top goal scorer?
Is this kind of what a rebuild is though, in a way? Like obviously you can't finish 15th in the meantime, but Chelsea did pretty much. What did they finish? 12th, 10th, back to back, something like that, or 8th. And I know they had a bit of a run toward the end, but they had some terrible finishes. They were one of the worst teams in the league for about 20 games under Lampard. Didn't they won like two wins in 20 games or something when he got there. And you know, I know they're certainly not out of it, and I still think they're an absolute shambles in terms of the off the pitch stuff. But we're starting to see a turnaround in performance. They've got an absolute gem in Palmer. They've thrown enough shit at the wall, and they've got one of the best players in England playing for them now, and they got him from Man City, obviously. Is there part of us that has to accept that Xerxes, no one here thinks that with the right coaching he could be a 30-goal season striker? I don't think that's
he's not
his
that guy.
game.
That's not you know, to slay the kid.
No, but you don't have to necessarily.
No. That's I know you're not. I'm just saying, like, you know, he's not that guy, and I think you're deluded if you think he is.
I don't. And Højlund maybe could be. I think if you got 16 last season in a better team with more confidence, that easily nudges up to 20, and from there 25 plus is achievable. I think he could do that as he gets older. So there's a maybe there, but it's a maybe. Bruno, you don't know if he'll ever get back to those numbers, and Rashford, up and down, you never know quite what you're going to get. But do we kind of have to accept that that's what the squad is, and temper our expectations accordingly?
I get your point, because I'm like with the rebuild thing, the issue I've got, right, and I understand it, and it's like you could go, look, we're conceding too many goals. The priority here, this rebuild, is to sort the defence out. Let's get De Ligt, let's get Yoro, let's get Mazraoui in, let's sort this defence out, yeah. And then we can sort of, the next window, the focus will be the attack. The issue you've got there is the defence is looking shaky as well. Yeah. So it's like, it's like, it feels a bit like, at the minute, for Manchester United and for Erik ten Hag, it's just getting it from both barrels. Because it's like, okay, you've sort of focused mainly on the defence, haven't you? I know we've obviously bought Xerxes, we've bought Ugarte, and we've bought other players as well, but it does feel a bit like it's been like, look, the defence was a nightmare last season, all these injuries, Varane's left, we need to sort of bring in some reinforcements, and we've done that, and okay, now we should be in a stronger position. And then you can sort of, you know, focus more maybe on the next window, or the next summer you go, we're going to go out for a big striker or whatever. The issue is, like I said, it's just the minute. You can't, you know, if your strikers aren't scoring, no one's scoring. If you're only getting the odd goal here and there, which is what we've done, the reason that, you know, it works against Fulham because we got a clean sheet. But it's not going to work against anyone else. It didn't work against Brighton because we conceded 2. It didn't work we didn't score against the others. You know, you need to have a solid defence if you are going to be struggling up front, and at the minute we haven't. And I know that might change.
But they also work with each other and against each other almost, don't they? Because if you miss a load of chances and it's 0-0, you're far more likely to concede a goal than if you're 2-0 up. Because the opposition gets demoralised, they lose a bit of confidence. They go hand in hand.
Sometimes as well, and I don't know, I'd have to look at it a little bit more scientifically, but the amount of chances we're conceding, I've heard people say that, and I've heard people say, and I've said it, we're not conceding as many chances, but you look at the context of some of these games, like that Liverpool game when it was 3-0, Liverpool they're in second gear. Like, are they really going for it? Or are they like, we're 3-0 up at Old Trafford, we'll just pass it about a bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was an element of that with Spurs. I know with that 10 men, so that's a bit of an outlier, but are they really going for it? Or are they like, let's just take the sting out of this game?
Because United Werner helped us there massively.
Yeah, I know, because Timo Werner was very wasteful. So I think sometimes it gets a bit skewed. I don't know, at the minute, I feel like it's difficult to properly assess it, because I can't imagine that Rasmus Højlund's going to have no shots for every night. He's going to start having shots, innit? Do you know what I mean? Alejandro Garnacho's going to have more than 1 goal every 6 games. Joshua Zirkzee is going to have surely more than 1 in 7. Bruno Fernandes isn't going to be as bad as he has been recently, because he's a great player. It just feels a bit weird at the minute.
What's really confusing for me is as well, like when you talk about a rebuild, Ten Hag's brought these players in. So like Zirkzee, Højlund, Agate's hardly played.
The bench was fascinating the other day.
So why, if you're the manager and you're bringing them in to improve your squad, why are they not playing? Why are they not playing?
Do you think there's an element? You've spoken about this. Do you think there's an element of he's just playing it cautious because he wants to bed him in slow, or do you think they have been forced on him and he's a little bit like,
he can't now, Jay, can he?
I don't want to play these because I didn't want them in the first place, so I'm going to play the players that I did want. What do you put it down to?
There was rumours with Ugarte, weren't there, that he wanted to keep McTominay and didn't want to get Ugarte particularly, and the club were like, no, he's going to work, here you go. So maybe that could explain why he's taking a bit more time to bed him in and he's bringing him in and out. But there's no way he didn't want Mazraoui or De Ligt when they both used to play for him. His veto on that would be based on far better sort of data than any scout could imagine. He's trained with them and played them, and I think was De Ligt even his captain at Ajax. Probably, there's no way that De Ligt wasn't wanted by Ten Hag. So with certain players I kind of get it, but they've, De Ligt's coming in and out of the squad as well, hasn't he? And he clearly knows him. Some of it's just maybe just takes a bit of time for people to bed in, and we've got we every time any game happens, we always look at it as though it's the culmination of 2 years and 8 games worth of work, and every single game is reflective and representative of everything that's happened. Maybe Bruno's just having a bit of bad form, and when that switches around, some of these 0-0s and 1-0s will go the other way, and maybe we will get a bit of luck for once, because it's not all just like, every time we watch United play, we go, this is the epitome, this is the pinnacle of Ten Hag's vision. Wow, that was crap. He must be crap. But maybe it's also
a lot more to it than that.
Moving around.
I wouldn't be surprised as well. I know we, as United fans, we ignore it, we don't care about it, and we just dismiss it. International football, but that plays a part in some of this. Like, Højlund didn't have a great Euros, did he? Got a lot of stick in the Euros. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying he was terrible or anything like that, but I know he was getting stick for missing chances. And then you're coming off the back of that, you're coming back, you got an injury, you pick up an injury in pre-season, early doors in pre-season as well, wasn't it? That's got to be difficult for you. Mainoo went from never playing to playing every game for United every minute to every game for England. Like, that's got to be quite draining for a teenager. Then you've got other players like Ugarte, I think he was playing in the summer. Martinez, like, De Ligt has had pelters from the Dutch press, and even his own manager and his captain for Holland been laying into him. And that's got to affect you either psychologically or just physically, because you're playing a lot of football and you're involved in games that aren't going your way and you're getting blamed for it. Like, so it's both barrels again. You're getting psychological and so I think that can play a part. I think there's lots of different facets and reasons, and that might be one of them.
I think one of the big ones, maybe for me, which obviously isn't what we're talking about with the focus on the pitch, but there was that shot of all of the board, 6 members of the board, with Fergie looking down upon Erik ten Hag on the weekend's game, wasn't it? And it's interesting that those are 6 incredible minds of football and business coming together for the first time, and we just assume that maybe all of them are just going to work like that together. But some of those who are have got so much emphasis on them being like proud of what they've achieved in the past. They've never really worked together before. So now they're all getting to know each other, meanwhile still putting pressure on Erik ten Hag, which I bet some of them didn't want to keep, and some of them did. So we've got this sort of conflict where great minds are meeting for the very first time, putting them in this blender of Man United. Crazy stuff's going on the pitch. People want Xerxes, buy Xerxes. No, you can't keep McTominay, bring in new guy. And all the while, we've got to focus on the fact that it's 11 men on the pitch and it's young lads who want to score goals. But for some reason, we aren't doing it. And I just wonder, are we ironing out the cracks of bringing in this incredible new board that all need to start understanding what it's like to be with each other?
Can you imagine the meeting they've had this week as well? Jim Ratcliffe's there. They're all there trying to impress him. Sorry. They're all there trying to impress him. You can imagine there's a lot of opinions going around there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's going to be so much.
You know what I mean? I can't imagine them all going, Dan Ashford just sat there going, yeah, I just agree with what Omar said. Yeah. What Jason Wilcox going, I agree with what Dan and Omar said. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, like I've got an opinion. I've got something different to say than what Jason Wilcox has said. I've got something different to say on than what Dan Ashford said. So you can imagine, like, it's a good point that I think there's a lot of opinions going around, and some of those opinions might be filtering down to what we're seeing on the football pitch in one way or another.
I mean, United have got a lot to sort out, haven't they? And it is a good point of, like, all the people now who run Man United, none of them ran Man United last season.
None of them did.
Like, none of them. Like, Ratcliffe was sort of coming in and doing bits from sort of January onwards, but Barada and Ashworth in particular, neither of them started till the summer.
No.
Wilcox didn't start till just before them.
Yeah.
Like the people who now take daily charge of the footballing side of Manchester United, and to certain degrees the financial side as well, have never worked together. Really, I don't think they've worked together, any of them. And Wilcox and Barada maybe did at City, but they certainly all didn't work together. And they've also, none of them, including Barada at City, because it's a different thing, have ever worked for any company that has as much scrutiny and speculation about Man United. Like, it's one thing working for like British Cycling and trying to get the yellow jacket at the Tour de France.
Who's arse, really?
But I know it's one of the most watched sports, but it's not the same.
No,
they say that it is numbers wise.
Fact.
My mate, he started working for Manchester United on the social media side of things, and he messaged me on his first day, and I've never known anything like it.
Yeah.
He said it was just, he was just getting hammered.
What?
Like, like the amount of attention, the amount of people who commenting, the amount of people talking about it, the amount of people that were scrutinising it. He was just like, I've never seen anything like it. He said, I wasn't prepared. And he went from a quite big company to that. He's just like, it's night and day. He said, I just wasn't prepared. Now you imagine it being far higher up the food chain, where you're the guys making decisions on what's going on in the football.
Because like there are bigger companies than Man United. Like Coca-Cola is a bigger company. Shell is a bigger company. McDonald's, whatever, bigger companies. But no one's like. I mean, there are some absolute nutters, but no one is like McDonald's fans for life, or my whole life is based around McDonald's. My whole life is based around Shell or BP or whatever. That doesn't exist. There aren't ultras for fucking, whatever.
It was like that.
It's a different thing completely.
It's a great point, because I remember like me and Scott were arguing about it, and he was like, well, look at Qatar. Qatar have invested in like the Shard, and you didn't see people like protesting about it. I said, yeah, but no, I don't go and stand outside the Shard shouting, I love you, the Shard, every week.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to protest what's going on there.
You're gherkin away.
Yeah, they bought a bit of Twitter. I'm not going to, I don't stand outside Twitter's offices saying, we love you, Elon. Like, it's not a thing, so it is different. Yeah, so there's a few things to sort out, Manchester United.
Just a few, but one of them is scoring more goals. Right, I think that's been a lovely little podcast.
It has, hasn't it?
Pleasure.
Enjoyed that.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Always.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe Motty, as well, of course. Up the R8. I'll put your links obviously in the description as well.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for watching at home. Thank you, of course, Jay, as well. See you in a bit.